Good morning, class. Guess what? I wanted to tell you a little bit about a Bible story we had talked about. We're going to review it, and then I'm going to go on and tell you a little more. So I'm trying something different here, so hopefully this will work. Remember this picture right here? We had talked about Abram and Sarai, and God had told them to go to a place I will show you. And it says in the Bible that Abram went out not knowing whither he went. And we talked about that, how he is a man of faith. He didn't always do 100% everything he should do perfectly, but he loved God. And here's his wife, Sarai. And later their names would change, which happened a number of times in the Bible. But they had to have faith. They didn't know where to go. They were in the city of Ur, an ancient city long ago, and they were going to go to the place God, because I'm calling you out of here to make a new people for myself, he said. So they went and they journeyed, and they had to take all of their things with them. They had to take their livestock and their servants, as we talked about. And there were quite a few people there by the time, and animals, as they journeyed. So it wasn't just them. And they journeyed on their way, and they found obstacles and challenges along the way, but they had to stay together and trust God. And here's all of their animals and servants to help them with all of the things they had. And then in this next picture, once they got to this place that God had said to come, the first thing they did was they made a sacrifice to God, and they praised God. And we talked about how this sacrifice represents the perfect sacrifice. Jesus, the Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the whole world. And what a picture it was as they were looking forward to the Messiah that would come. And here they are, giving praise to God. You've brought us to this place. We don't know exactly what we're doing, but we're trusting you. But you know what? Then famine came to the land. Oh, the famine, it was hard. No rain, no food. And they got scared. And so they left and they went to Egypt. They should have trusted God more, that if he had called them there, he'd take care of them. But they got scared, as we often do at times. And they went to Egypt. They said, oh, there's plenty of food there, and we can ask the king to help us. Abram tells this lie, actually, because he got scared about who his wife really was, Sarai. But you know what? Pharaoh found out, the king found out, and he didn't kill him like he thought. And he went ahead and let them go and go back to where they came from. And so afterwards, they went back to the land where they were. And this brings us to today, where they're traveling, and Abram had a nephew, and his name was Lot. And they had a wonderful time, but things started getting a little uncomfortable. You see, the flocks and herds of Lot's servants and Lot's things was growing, and so was that of Abram. And Abram and Lot, some of the servants, they started not getting along. They were not getting along as they should. And so something needed to happen. You know what happened? Well, there were some problems. That's what happened. And the problems that occurred were these arguing. Oh, think about it. We're running out of food. We're running out of water. There's too many of us. And so because of that, things happened that shouldn't have happened. Words were said that shouldn't have been said, and arguments grew. And Abram finally talked it over with Lot and said, you know what? This fighting between our men has got to stop. We must love from our hearts one another. Besides, the heathen people that live around us that don't know God, the Canaanites and the Perizzites, what would they think of us if they hear us arguing? That's so true class. When those who are not Christian see us going places and doing things that bring disgrace to our God, and when they hear us saying things and talking like one who is not a child of God, what must they think of us? Would they want to be a Christian then? They wouldn't, would they? We want to be an example of something good that someone would want. Well, Abram continued talking with Lot, and he said, I think we need to separate. I think we need to separate. We're such a large group anyway, and I will give you the first choice. What land would you like to settle and go to? If you want the fertile plain in the valley, I'll let you have that. Then I'll stay here on the mountains. Or if you want the mountains, then I'll go down to the plains. You see how loving and unselfish and generous Abram was? But Lot had a greedy heart, because instead of saying, no, Uncle Abram, you're the one, you should have the first choice, not me. But he didn't say that. He said, oh, he looked out at all that rich and fertile plains of the Jordan River, and everywhere it was like the Garden of Eden. It was so beautiful, and such rich pasture land, plenty of grass and water and food for my flocks and herds, and they'll grow and they'll multiply. And look, he saw out in that city out there in the distance. And he said, oh, there'll be places to sell my goods. There'll be places to sell wool or meat or other things that I'm raising here in these cities called Sodom and Gomorrah, big cities to sell all the sheep and cattle. Well, little did he realize that later on, God was going to send down fire and brimstone on Sodom and Gomorrah and destroy those cities because of the wickedness and leave it in smoking ashes. So Lot made his choice. It was the worst thing he could have done. The biggest mistake of his life. But he wanted the best for himself. He wanted the land best for his cattle, where he could make the most money, where his family could live in a fine house and have a good social life, where he could be important. He didn't ask God. He didn't pray to God first. He chose, and he made his choice. He didn't give the future a thought, nor did he think about his soul or spiritual welfare or for his family. You see, the world will pass away, but the things of God are eternal, and they will last forever, forever. Well, what about Abram? What happened to Abram? Well, Abram stayed there and didn't go to the place where Lot went. And he stayed in the mountains, and he moved to the cities of these beautiful plains. And after Lot was gone, Abram, perhaps he felt lonely. And the Lord encouraged him, though. He said to Abram, look as far as you can see in every direction, for I'm going to give it all to you and your descendants forever. And I am going to give you so many in your family, it's like the dust of the ground. It cannot be counted. And he made another promise to Abram. He said, and look up in the sky. Look at all the stars in the sky. I am going to also bless your family, and it's going to be like the stars of the sky, innumerable, meaning it cannot be counted. And you're going to look up in the sky. That's how many descendants you're going to have. And he must have felt good hearing those words from God, this promise. And he listened and took that all in. So there was a promise. He's going to have descendants. But you know what? He didn't have any children. In order to have descendants, those that come after you, you need children. And then they have children, right? As you get older and as they get older. Well, Sarai and Abram had no children, like I said. And Sarai finally got tired of waiting. And she thought, now, of course, this was wrong thinking, but she said, when God promises, or what we should think is when God promises something, he's going to fulfill that promise, isn't he? His promise doesn't need any help, you know, but she thought maybe God's promise needed a little bit of help. Well, Sarai got impatient and decided to do things her way. Sarai had a young Egyptian servant girl that helped her. Her name was Hagar, who was her personal maid and helped her with serving food and other tent chores. When Hagar was a young girl living in Egypt, she had not believed in Jehovah God. She had been an idol worshiper, like most people would there. But Abram and Sarai taught her about the one true living God. And so she threw away her idols and trusted and loved the one true God. As Hagar served Sarai, Sarai started feeling sorry for herself. God won't let me have any children, she said to Abram. But Abram, I want you to have children anyway. I want you to be a father so badly that I will let Hagar be the mother. Well, sad to say, Abram listened to his wife. And when he was 85 years old, he became a father of Hagar's little boy, Ishmael. And so instead of Sarai having the child, Hagar, the servant, had it. Well, that's not what God had meant when he said that. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him again. I am the Almighty God, he said. I will make my covenant between me and thee, and I will multiply thee exceedingly, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. And look, let's turn that around. Here's Abram. And God appears to him again. Now he's 99. That was not the promise. This Ishmael that was born of Hagar, that's not the promise I was meaning. You are going to be the father of many nations from you and your seed with Sarai. Father of many nations. Sarai is going to have a new name. And you are going to have a new name as well. Sarai's new name is going to be Sarah, which means princess. God said of Sarah, I will bless also of her. Yeah, I will bless her. She shall be a mother of nations. Now, could Abraham, now called Abraham, this is the first time Abram's name was called Abraham, and now Sarai's name would be called Sarah. And from henceforth, they would be known as Abraham and Sarah, because they are the father and mother, we could say, of this great nation. And she is the princess, as her name means, of what God had chosen. Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? Abraham thought. And shall Sarah, this 90 years old, bear and have a child? And Abraham said unto God, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. But God said, Sarah, thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him forever, everlasting. God assured Abraham that he would bless Ishmael also and make him a great nation. But the greatest blessing would be through Isaac, his son of Sarah and Abraham. And he just waited for God's special timing. Going ahead of God always causes problems. And you're going to see that in the upcoming lesson, that there's an Ishmael now, but there will be an Isaac eventually too. And what is going to happen there? It's never right to do wrong, even if we think doing wrong may eventually work out for the good. We need to trust God in what God says in his word and what he's told us to do. So we're going to find out in the next lesson what happens and how God unfolds his promise to fulfill and make Abraham a father of many nations, a father of a great nation, and have all of these descendants through this promised one to come who would be born, Isaac. And that's what we'll talk about in the next lesson. I hope you enjoyed this story this morning. God's love is eternal, isn't it? Sing that song with me. God's love is like a circle big and round. For when you see a circle, no ending can be found. And so the love of Jesus goes on eternally, forever and forever. I know that he loves me. And the books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st, 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job, Psalm, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. Be practicing those for the next quiz that we have, whenever that might be now. Know all the books of the Old Testament. Bye for now.